And let's do the intro. Let's do the intro like we did. Let's do the intro later.
We didn't do an intro later.
Huh?
There was no.
No.
The second and third video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's cut that later.
The first video, I just left the non-intro in there.
Yeah.
You didn't like that?
No, I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, like, let's do intros later. Let's find a hook, right? Let's find a hook for the videos.
Hook? There's no hook. What hook?
There's got to be a hook. There's got to be something that makes somebody want to watch the video.
Yeah, it's called the title.
No, you still have to. We still have to find a spot in the video that makes people go, "Damn, I want to listen to that."
Yeah, I know. We just don't have that kind of content.
We're gonna make that kind of content.
Watch the whole thing. There you go. There's your hook. All right. This guy called me pessimistic, so I'm sad already. I'll keep this short and sweet if possible. I know David has a very pessimistic attitude, but I genuinely want to know if he would do it all over again, if he had to, or if he would choose another route as far as shop ownership goes. I would like to open a shop, but I second guess that a lot of time. Second question: the shop I work at does shotgun diagnostics. Comes in with a misfire, it gets plugs and coils. If that didn't fix it, then injectors. Whenever I pull out the test light or scope to try and to start testing, my boss seems to get pissed and pushes me out of the way. I just watched the truck the other day get a new PCM. Cats. Can you hear that?
Yeah, somebody started something here in front of the shop. Sorry.
No, not you. Me. He's dragging a jack across the shop.
No, I can't hear that.
A new PCM, cats, 3 sets of plugs, 1 set of coils, mass airflow sensor, and all 4 oxygen sensors because it was running rich at idle and smoking badly. They won't give a guy like me a shot to diagnose him because it's not deemed profitable to spend that time. At least that's my guess. And I'm not sure how they get the customers to cover the cost of this approach to diagnostics. Anyway, I guess the question is, how do I go about gaining the hands-on experience to master the craft? I don't know a single shop in my area that can guarantee a diagnosis. I'm never given the opportunity at work. You just try to offer the service on Facebook and be the crapshoot moonlighter the industry hates until you build up a small clientele and try to move out on your own. Otherwise, I'm out. I've grown to hate this industry.
Okay. All right, you want to give your answer first? Would you do it again?
I would not open a shop from scratch again, ever.
Okay. What would you do?
I don't think I would ever start a business from scratch ever. I will buy a business. Would I be a shop owner again? Yes, but I should have bought a business that was selling out. Had a good location, and I would look for real estate too. I'd buy a business.
I understand. What would you do differently the first 6 months, the first year in business, if you did it all over again? Let's say on a whim that you went back 10 years and said, look, that's not an option, but the only option I have is to do some things differently. If you knew what you know. No. I would not open a shop from scratch at all. Come hell or high water, I would go get a job. If I didn't have enough money to put a down payment on an SBA loan, or if I didn't have enough money that I could just buy a business outright in cash, I would not open a business bootstrapping it with 0 clients on my customer list the way I did. Yeah.
Never again.
I'm with you.
Ever again would I recommend that to absolutely anybody. That is a nightmare. A nightmare from day one. You are behind the 8 ball, and it is either going to put you in a massive amount of debt while you try to grow the business. That's what I ended up doing. Or you're going to be just, paying out cash, and take 15, 20 years to get the business that you're trying to get to. there are people that get incredibly lucky. They are dealing with an underserved community, underserved area, and they open up a business in the right location, and everything just explodes on them, and they're doing $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 in the first year. That is 100% possible. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but people also win the lottery. It happens.
Yeah. I looking back, I agree with you 100%, okay? Because here's the thing, is looking back at it not been for my parents, this wouldn't have worked, right? I wouldn't have had 15 years to make it work. I wouldn't have had 10 years to make it work. And even after I learned what I needed to know, the one thing I came away with that is that if I went back and tried to do this again, I financially should not have even tried it without $100,000 in the bank, right? I needed more capital. And I built it and I grew it, but it was at a lot of the expense of me, right? It cost me personally. It cost me financially. It did things to my, to my body, right? Stress wise and hard work wise, right? I crawl off of a truck now and it's like, man, my knees hurt, my hips hurt. I feel bad. I put a lot of pressure on myself that I shouldn't have put on myself. I would have been better off to go get a job. Now, I didn't do that. That wasn't the course I took, but 100% I agree. If I didn't have at least some substantial capital after building the business, starting the business, whatever it was that I did, no way, right? Not happening because it's not smart.
$100,000 isn't enough. I'm sorry. It's just not enough. And here's the thing. Like
I'm saying having $100,000 in the bank as capital after starting the business. I'm saying you need $100,000 in the bank account after you start the business. Now, if that is if you're a one-person deal, right? And I know people are going to say, no, see, I did it without that. Dude, I'm saying if you're a one-person thing, you need $100,000 in the bank to protect yourself. If something goes wrong, we talk about this all the time. They build the business around themselves. If you get sick, if something happens, if the worst of the absolute worst nightmare you have happened, if the shop burns down, right? Well, I've got insurance for that. No, it's going to take months to get that back. You're without for a while.
This guy says I have a pessimistic attitude. It's just that's pessimistic, right? I wasn't pessimistic walking into this because I'm like, I can make this work. I'm going to make
hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going to make millions of dollars. It's going to be fine. It's going to be my own business. I'll get to make my own decisions. All of a sudden you realize that you're not working for yourself. You're working for the client. The client is unrealistic. The client doesn't understand. The client doesn't want what you offer. So now you're trying to figure out, like, how do I do this?
Well, it's like there's no walking into the business or starting the business from scratch. When you have zero customers, everybody becomes your customer because you need customers. And so you start making concessions within the business to try to please everybody. Yeah, use car lots. And I have seen so many good people, hardworking, try to make the business work, and they've taken on clients that were just disasters. Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't have taken them on. They're taking on projects that they shouldn't have taken on. I cannot tell you how many project cars. The guy shows up with 10 grand cash. All of a sudden, I'm like, yeah, I'll do this ridiculous project that should have been $50,000. And I'm thinking I'm getting away profitably with 10. It's like, no.
Yep. I'm telling you.
I would never, ever, ever advise anybody start from scratch. Now, would I open another business? Absolutely. I would look at the financials of the business and be 100% certain that I'm walking into a business that, one, I am completely familiar with, that I understand how it's set up, how it's supposed to make money, and I would know very quickly just from the dynamics within the shop whether the financials match reality.
Yeah.
I talked to a very nice couple that had bought a business. They had never been in the automotive repair business before. They decided they saw this. It was netting 15, 20, 25% of the bottom line, and they thought they were getting an investment, that they were going to be able to buy this thing at 7 figures and be able to get a 20% return on it. And I would have been able to tell them immediately, just based on their staffing, that those numbers were fudged. Right?
They were inflated. Yep, I remember.
It wasn't even an inflation. They were just unsustainable. because of the staffing that they had. They did not have enough technicians, like general service technicians, to be able to keep those numbers up. They just it was going to fall apart very, very quickly. The other thing too, I mean, I know this from experience, that you walk in the business, the entire staff is going to turn over. So I've got to be able to walk in with that plan in my mind, going, I'm going to be able to buy this business, turn over the entire staff within 3 to 6 months, and maintain gross revenue numbers because the financials are realistic, because I have enough space and I can staff it properly to be able to turn over that whole staff and still maintain that gross revenue number with my investment. So if you don't have all that laid out, don't buy the business. And then also don't start one from scratch and think you can just bootstrap it. It can be. I'm not saying it can't be done. You see success stories over and over and over again. I'm just telling you that those are unbelievably lucky people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that not only are they unbelievably lucky, I think in a lot of cases they had some business education, they had some financial backing, they had something that made it work. It wasn't just luck of the draw, right?
I'm telling you, their odds were in the favor, but they most of the time they don't even recognize what those odds were. But they were at the right place at the right time. They were in the right neighborhood. They found a good location, and they were able to open up a business that in an underserved community that had a lot of money.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
You're exactly
and all of a
right.
sudden they have a flood of customers coming in the door with zero marketing done, and they're not having to pull in customers one at a time from just Facebook ads and IG posts and, dancing on TikTok, and you're having to do X, Y, Z over and over and over, grinding to get that one new customer, and you are pulling them in one at a time. No, you open up the door. Look, I got told this very early on. I asked I was taking over a location, a space that a business had been in already, and the guy was just hopping from space to space because he would stop paying the bills, he'd get kicked out, he'd move to another space, and then he'd stop paying the bills there, and they'd get kicked out. And this guy made it for years like that. Right. And he always had customers. And I asked him, like, dude, how are you always so busy? And he's like, I just turn the open sign on and people pile in. Every single time, it was because he was serving an underserved community in the area. He was Muslim, okay?
Right.
And so Muslim people would come in. That's his entire clientele was Muslim. Like they spoke the language. He spoke the language. I think it was Arabic. And so there was an instant connection there. On top of that, like his second spot or third spot was on the busiest street in the area. And so all you had to do is turn the open sign. People would just pull in because they saw an open sign. They saw auto repair. Right. And he didn't need to do any marketing. I mean, that's just luck. Terrible business practice, shady guy, terrible mechanic, screwed up every car that he touched. Didn't matter. That's what I'm talking about. This guy was unbelievably lucky that he was able to pull in those customers. And you see that all the time. I'm not saying these are bad mechanics, but they turn on the open sign and people flood in and they think, I figured it out. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's like, dude, you move 2 streets over and you're not going to be able to duplicate that success. Yeah. And if you cannot pinpoint and say, I've got a strategy, a setup here that I'm going to be able to duplicate down the street or anywhere I set up, because I've got a process on acquiring customers, I got a process on staffing, I've got a process on policies and procedures. If you don't have that outlined, like I don't know what you're doing. Like you're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're exactly right, and it's almost impossible, like to get there from the ground up without killing yourself. Right? Like it's tough. It's a lot of work, and I don't think people understand. This is not working on cars. This is not about working on cars. No. Running the business that fixes cars is not about working on cars. And so if you go out and you try and start this business, it is a wake-up call, boys. As soon as you start that business, it is a wake-up call. I'm not doing the job I thought I was doing. I can fix cars really well, but it doesn't mean you're a great business owner. And
How many times do you hear the shop owners like, I can't I can't work on cars during the day because I'm on the phone the entire day. And so what do? They wait till they close, and then they work on the cars. Yeah,
just over
crazy.
And over again. And so, I want to touch on the shotgun diagnostics part of this, right?
He needs to leave that shop.
Oh, he does need to leave that shop. And I think before we go too much further, we should give a warning that if Paul Danner's listening, he should take his blood pressure medicine now, right? Like before, I don't even know what to say about that. A shop that would do that.
There's so many. There are so many.
I got into some comments with a guy yesterday, and he said, look, there's too many guys who are out here using book hour, and they're overcharging their clients because they're using book hour. And I said, you know what? I agree we shouldn't be using book hour. We should be charging for how much time it actually takes us, as long as you're tracking how much time it actually takes you. And he came back and he said, well, but you shouldn't be looking for things to sell on cars. You should just fix what they said they wanted fixed. You should stop taking advantage of your clients. And I'm like, there's a lot of thought process in our industry that follows that, right? Mm. There's a lot of shop owners who practice business that way. And it sounds like this shop owner may practice business that way. Anybody who would just start changing parts, clearly that's not what's best for the client. But it would almost seem as if they think that's what's best for the client. I don't understand it. I don't understand the logic behind it, but there's a lot of shops that do it. I think the first thing that we have to ask him is
and it hasn't bit him in the ass. That's the only difference.
Yeah, and it will. It will.
I
mean, here's the thing: is they may not realize it's biting them in the ass. They may not realize. I worry about the reputation of my shop sometimes, right? And me and you have talked about that. There's things that bother me. And I think that if you start to get a reputation like that, there's a local chain here nearby me, and they have a reputation for damaging vehicles. You can't look on a Facebook post without somebody saying, "Hey, whatever you do, just don't go there," right? And it's hundreds of people. It's not one or two. It's hundreds of them. Not one or two. Hundreds of people get on there and say, "I would not go to this one place. You can go anywhere else in town, but don't go there because they will take advantage of you. They'll break your car. They'll do this. They'll do that," right? Yet they're still in business. And so the first thought I have is how do you maintain a reputation? And I don't think you can when you're changing parts like that. I don't think you truly recognize.
That is a shop that is doing steering, suspension, and maybe rotating electrical and tires. You know what I'm saying? And brakes.
They're not doing actual heavy line work.
Maybe they're doing engine swaps, but that's that's it. That's the max.
I'm saying heavy line drivability. They're not doing.
They're not doing any drivability. Yeah. And so, if 80 to 85% of your business is swapping out struts, brakes, tires, and maybe some rotating electrical, and then that's it. Yeah, I mean, you have, you're going to do however many cars.
Yeah.
Every single day, and you might have 1 to 2 a week that actually need diagnostic work. But even if you have a higher percentage of that, what do we say all the time? It's like 70% of the time you can throw the part that's throwing the code on there, and it fixes the car. Like you get a crank sensor code, you don't have to do any diagnostic work. Throw the crank sensor code or crank sensor on the car, it fixes it. Charge the customer.
Well, that's probably where this shop owner's logic comes from. That's probably what's
the numbers work out in their favor. Now, I don't know about this truck here that he's slapped a PCM, cats, 3 sets of plugs, coil, blah, blah, blah. I don't know about that one. But if he's able to make money just throwing the part on there, because 70% of the time that's what fixes it, that the guy that he's saying that they just throw coils and plugs on the car. Yeah, I mean, that's going to fix a misfire, whatever, 60% of the time maybe. And it's like, if it's fixing it that often, why is he going to bother with diagnostics?
Here's my thought, right? The first question I have is A, do we think that it's not profitable, or they think that it's not profitable? Or is there another reason? Have we asked? Have we had the conversation?
It's not profitable because I guarantee he's not charging for diag.
Well, I understand that, but hang on. That's not my point. My point is, what does the shop owner really feel about this? What is it because he says, I assume it's because he thinks it's not profitable. So we can't assume, we have to know, right? We have to understand, why does he say, maybe, and here's my thought, is that I don't think there's that many cruddy people out there. I think for the most part, we want to do a good job. We want people to think, hey, man, my shop's really awesome. Is it that he thinks he's doing it the right way? Is it that he's fooled himself into thinking this is the way that you fix cars? Is it just truly a lack of knowledge? Or is this a situation where he genuinely says, I can change those parts, I can charge them for those parts, I can make all that money? Nah, man, it's more profitable to change these parts. What is there?
I'm gonna defend the shop owner here. I'm gonna defend the shop owner here from a purely mathematical standpoint. Okay, mm-hmm. He's looking at his numbers. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, if like I'm saying, if he's doing mostly undercar work, and then the occasional check engine light comes on, he knows that he can throw just a random part on there, and it will fix the car. About 70% of the time, okay? Meaning that now he has to deal with that 30%. That 30% might be we threw the part on there, didn't fix it, take the part back off, set it outside to send it to the dealer.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything else complicated past that, just single code or two codes or misfire code or whatever, gets sent to the dealer. He just doesn't mess with it. Now, you're thinking, okay, but he's got somebody on there that might have some talent that is wanting to learn diagnostic. But from a purely business standpoint, the numbers don't work out in his favor. But let's say he decides, I'm going to start charging for diagnostic time. I'm going to start charging for individual testing. I'm going to tell the customer, explain the whole process to them. Mm-hmm. We're going to take pictures. We're going to use scopes and yada, 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 yada. He is going to now hinge a certain percentage of his gross revenue on a single person in his shop.
Yep.
Because he might have 4 other techs working there, and only tech number 5 is even interested in pulling out the scope. The other 4 are banging away at suspension and brakes all day long, and they'll slap a sensor in there. Now he's got all of his diagnostic work needs to go to this one tech. What if that tech leaves? He has already upended the way he set up his business. Now he has to charge for diagnostic time. Now he has to explain all. He's got to change his sales tactics up at the front counter to accommodate for diagnostic testing. But now this guy leaves for whatever reason. He's looking at another job, or he hates the industry now. He wants to move on. Fine. Mm-hmm. But now he's already upended the business. He doesn't know how to do the diagnostic testing, so he can't step into that role all of a sudden.
Yep.
So why would he bother?
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, we know that testing is the proper path to repairing a vehicle. And you know, I've caught a lot of flack for this. There's a lot of shops that shouldn't be in business, right? And I, you know, but who am I to say that? If they're profitable and they're making money, who am I to tell them they shouldn't be in business? And I understand. My problem is that this practice damages our industry as a whole. It doesn't just damage this shop. It doesn't just affect this shop.
Two flips about the industry.
I know he doesn't.
He's just trying to make a buck.
I completely understand.
This is on the consumer then. I blame the consumer. Look, the only reason why this works, is there's 100 cars behind that one. Behind that truck that got the PCM, CATs, 3 sets of plugs, mass airflow sensors, set of coils, and 4 oxygen sensors, there's 100 cars sitting right behind that one. And he's going to screw this customer over, give him back his car, either eat all of these parts or give him back the car and charge the customer and say, no, it's got to go to the dealer. The customer's going to pay.
If you are skilled enough, if you can BS your way into getting a client to pay for all that stuff that didn't fix the car, then you're skilled enough to sell testing.
Yes, but you're right. But he has to sell testing on every car that comes in, and he has to BS his way out of this one vehicle. So maybe. Why is he going to? And he might be taking on the dealing of this one customer himself while he leaves his service advisor or 2 service advisors to deal with everybody else. And hey, just run through. And this is McDonald's. This is like bare minimum level of acceptable performance. Like,
as low as you can
need
go.
you. Yeah. Well, and that makes every employee replaceable. It doesn't matter who you bring in. Hey, this is all you have to do. You know what I'm saying? And like,
Purely transactional.
It's purely transactional. Yeah, you cannot run a business that is not transactional and have it operate this way and not charge for testing, that kind of stuff. Like, it just does not work. It just does not work.
I had a client come in a while back and he got really upset because we were going to charge for testing. Okay. And he said, no, you're not going to charge me for testing. And I said, no, this is our process. This is what we do. And he said, no. He said, I have a mechanic at home. They don't charge me for testing. And I'm going to tell you what, here's the deal, is that my mechanic at home has explained to me that you guys make a ton of money in doing the testing, which is not true. Okay.
It's not true.
Don't make ton of money doing diagnostic work.
No.
Okay. There's no profit in diagnostic work. Okay. Secondly, he says, well, my mechanic at home tells me that because you make all this money doing testing, that's why you're trying to sell it to me. And at the end of the day, it would be less expensive for you just to replace all the parts that I need. And if you have to replace 5 or 6 or 7 parts to get it fixed, it would be cheaper for me. And I said, hang on now. What if that part is a $500 or $600 part and the labor for it is $600? And he said, well, listen, my mechanic wouldn't ever charge me $600 to do anything because that's not fair. Now, I'm intrigued at this point. I said, listen, I'm really sorry. This is not the kind of thing that I could offer. I'm sure there's shops in town that could offer that, but I'm intrigued. I want to hear more of what you've been told and your experience, because one of two things is happening. Either he's lying to me about what this other shop told him and he's just trying to get a good deal, because people will do that. They will straight up bold-faced lie to you over something like this, just hoping that you'll cut your price. Or he really believes this. Somebody actually told him this. And so we begin to talk, and I said, I'm curious. This is a very odd response. And he said, look, I got this guy who does all my work. He's in a little shop. It's not a nice shop or anything like that. I don't care about that. I don't care what your shop looks like. I don't care what your capabilities are. I just want to know that you can change the parts on my car. He said, I give the guy $45 an hour, and he just works on the car and changes the parts, and he makes a living, and I get my car fixed. And I said, have you had this experience anywhere else? And he said, no, everybody else does it like you. And I said, don't you think there's a reason for that? Don't you think there's a reason nobody else is doing that? I said, what about liability? Like, would you, let's say he puts a fuel pump in your car, you get in the car with your family, it catches on fire and burns to the ground. It was really scary. Somebody could have got hurt, but luckily nobody did. Whose fault is it? He said, well, it's his fault. Wait a minute, but you didn't pay him for that liability. Well, what happens when
you didn't pay him to take on that liability? Yeah.
Right. What happens when we change $4,000 worth of parts? What happens if he says we need to put an engine in it to fix a misfire and it doesn't fix it? Well, I would expect him to give me my money back. So you've just never had that experience yet. You've just not got there, because it's coming. I promise. You're going to get there. Eventually something's going to happen that it doesn't get fixed. Something goes wrong, because this is not the type of experience or the type of cost associated with the experience that you're demanding, right? The experience you're demanding, the fact you expect him to take liability, the fact that you expect him to make sure if he says we need to replace this, that it's going to fix it if it's expensive. I don't care if it's cheap, but when it gets over a certain price threshold that I'm uncomfortable with, that he's going to pay for it. No, that's not how you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, what do you think's driving the animosity in the parts companies, right? What do you think it is that part stores look at these and they say, look, I'm just going to sell the cheapest parts I can. I'm going to get lower and lower. Well, at some point you've got to say, look, these people are just out here changing these parts over and over again. They're sending them back to us. And a lot of times there's nothing wrong with the part. So if we sell a much cheaper part, right, at least it takes some of that financial burden off of us. And the bad shops are just buying super cheap parts, so it doesn't matter anyway. They buy that ignition coil and it didn't fix it. They send it back.
Yeah.
We're out $2. They spent $15 on it. They get their $15 back. We send it back to the manufacturer. If it's not bad, whatever. Who cares, right? It was $2. Come on now. And so the problem for me is this is not just about this one shop. And you're right. He could make money like this in perpetuity. He could do this forever. But my problem is not with this one freaking shop. The problem is that it's so many shops doing this that it's damaging the rest of us who are trying to do it right, who are trying to provide the right information, who are trying to educate the client. And it sets an expectation for the consumer that this is okay and it's not okay. You wouldn't expect this from anybody else.
You're getting mad at the guy, but the guy doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care that he's ruining
I get
the
that he
industry.
doesn't care.
Okay, well now we need to put the burden on the technician.
Yeah, absolutely. He should not be serving a shop that's willing to do that.
Exactly. The fact that he's still there. Now, I get it. But this is a quick. I'm going to send an email out, and I'm going to say, hey, this is the area that I'm in. Find me a shop.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and what do we have to do? Just throw up a post on ASOG and hopefully
and all of a sudden you're going to find a shop that does things, and we hope that they do.
He's saying that he's in an area where he doesn't know anybody that guarantees their diagnosis. All he has to do is start calling shop.
Hold up. I've got a bit of an issue with that. Okay. And my issue is, like, I guarantee my diagnosis? I guarantee you that I am doing my very best to fix your car and that we have results that lead us in this direction. There is no guarantee of anything when it comes to testing, right? And I explain that we have to start here. Now, there are times that I go out to a car and I'm like, that clearly has no compression, right? Duh. The timing belt's broken. Needs an engine, right? Of course. Those are guarantees. But when we come down to certain things, I have to say, look, I've got to start here. There are no guarantees, and we need to stop talking in absolutes when it comes to testing and giving results about these tests. When you go to the doctor, do they give you a guarantee that that's going to fix your freaking problem? No.
Yeah.
It's unrealistic.
You just want to offer a path, a logical path. You want to say, based on this information,
yes,
I'm doing this because it leads me there, and therefore there's justification there for it. But that's a whole communication thing and making sure that you can justify the diagnosis. But regardless of that, he's saying that he can't find a shop that can quote unquote guarantee the diagnosis.
Right.
But all he's got to do is price shop. Hey, what do you guys do? What do you guys charge for diagnostic time? How do you charge for diagnostic time? What's your if their labor rate's $120 and you're like, how do you guys charge for diagnostic? Well, I charge you an hour for $120. That's not a shop you want to go to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if the shop goes, well, we're going to start with preliminary testing. My labor rate is 120, but our testing starts at 200. Okay, now we can talk. You see what I'm saying? Like now this is a shop that understands that there is gross profit dollars that need to be made on every billed hour, and that has been rolled in to the diagnostic charge. They also understand that there's testing involved and not just charging to scan the car, and that you're going to follow a certain path, and we're going to charge every single time. There's that's a conversation that you can have with that shop. Now, I guarantee that shop's looking for help.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
Almost every shop is looking for help. And if you introduce yourself and say, look, I'm looking for a shop. I have a scope. I belong to Standard and Premium. I'm trying to learn. I'm not saying that I'm a great diagnostician, but I'm a good diagnostician. I'm trying to work towards making diagnostics profitable for my shop owner.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a new home.
Know what part of the industry you serve. You're going to work for the good guys, you're going to work for the bad guys. Right?
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if he makes those phone calls and he finds that shop and introduces himself in that manner, or maybe he doesn't do it on the phone, once he finds that shop that's charging X amount of dollars properly for diagnostic time, he walks in and says, hey, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm so-and-so. This is what I've got to offer. I've got my own scope. I'm a member of Standard and Premium, or this is what I do to practice. I'm in a shop right now that will not let me diagnose cars. They just want me to throw parts at it, and I don't want to be a parts changer. Right. That is somebody that I am, unless they have a horrible attitude, is going to get hired that day.
Yeah.
So that fear that I'm sure is keeping him at the shop, that can be fixed very easily.
Yeah, and it
just
unwarranted.
takes a few steps.
Right. It's unwarranted.
It's unwarranted because he doesn't understand like what he needs to do to get out of that situation. But I've laid it out. That's what you need to do. You do that, and there is no reasonable shop owner that would not seriously consider hiring you on the spot for almost whatever dollar amount you want. Almost.
I also think, though, that we talk in absolutes when it comes to shop owners. We've thought that some people were really great shop owners and later found out that they weren't. We've thought that people would
But they're not this guy. They're not that guy. You see what there's levels.
That's true. Yeah,
there's like
that's very true.
This is the bottom of the rung dirtbag.
Yeah, I agree.
You can be less dirtbaggy.
And he may not even know he's bottom of the rung dirtbag.
I don't think he cares. He's probably making money.
That's why I want to know. That's why I want him to go ask him. Why is it that you don't want to do testing? And he may not tell the truth. We don't know. But I'm curious.
I'm sure he has said in the past that it doesn't make us any money. And,
but is it from ignorance or is it from malice?
I'm sure he got burned in the past. I'm sure he had a guy that, I can diagnose anything, this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, give it to Bob. And that guy may have been a great diagnostician, but then Bobby left.
Yeah.
Bobby's gone.
I'm just curious about
and now
the story.
He's like...
I'm a diagnostician myself. I'm curious about the story. I want to know why.
I don't care.
You don't care about anything, though. He started his message by saying that.
No. He said I was pessimistic, but if not, I'm just pragmatic and a realist. That's all.
Okay.